Please, don't.
I have nothing more to say.
Give it to me.
The office building stood tall against the evening sky, its glass windows reflecting the last rays of the sun. Inside, the atmosphere was tense and quiet, almost like the building itself was holding its breath. Clara, the CEO, had been working late for weeks, but tonight something felt different. Her hands shook slightly as she reviewed the last set of documents. The usual confidence that filled her every move seemed gone. Replaced by a worry she could not name, Clara had built her company from nothing. She was known for her sharp mind, her clear decisions, and the way she always seemed several steps ahead of everyone else. People admired her, even feared her a little, but tonight all that power felt like it belonged to someone else. She looked around the empty office and realized she was alone. The elevators had stopped running, the cleaning crew had long gone, and the night security guard had already left. A strange feeling crept over her. She felt small, almost invisible in the massive building she had built. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. A message from the board. Important meeting tomorrow morning. Be ready. Clara sighed and put the phone down. Normally she would have brushed it off, but tonight her energy was low, her mind heavy. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about the people she had to trust, the decisions she had to make, and the future she carried on her shoulders. Suddenly a noise came from the hallway, a soft, almost hesitant sound of footsteps. Clara froze. She was alone. Who could be walking the empty hallways at this hour? Her heart beat faster and she felt a strange pull toward the door. She got up slowly, trying to see through the dim light. As she reached the entrance to the hallway, she noticed a figure approaching. A man carrying a small bag, his clothes simple and neat. There was something calm in his presence, a confidence that did not demand attention but somehow claimed it anyway. Clara opened her mouth to ask who he was, but the words caught in her throat. The man stopped a few feet away and gave a small nod. I don't want to disturb you, he said softly. I just need a moment. His voice was steady, not demanding, not soft like a whisper, but a voice that made you listen without trying. Clara, despite herself, stepped back. Who are you? She asked, keeping her tone calm, though her hands shook slightly. My name is Ryan, he replied. I work nearby. I saw the lights on and I thought maybe someone needed help. Clara frowned. Help? I don't need help. I can take care of myself, Ryan nodded. I can see that. But sometimes even the strongest people need someone to notice them. I don't want to intrude, He paused as if choosing his words carefully. Sometimes it's hard to be completely alone in a place like this. Clara felt an unusual pull in her chest. His words were simple, almost ordinary, but they carried a weight she hadn't expected. She shook her head lightly, trying to dismiss it. I'm fine, she said again, but her voice lacked the firmness it usually held. Ryan stepped closer, careful to keep distance, and smiled gently. Then I'll leave. I just wanted to make sure. Before Clara could respond, another sound interrupted them. A sudden crash came from the far end of the hallway, followed by the echo of glass breaking. Clara jumped back, fear flashing across her face. Her office had always been a fortress, a place of control, but tonight she felt fragile, exposed. The sound was enough to make her breath quicken, and for the first time she realized that she had been ignoring a deeper fear. Ryan moved instinctively, stepping between Clara and the source of the sound. Stay behind me, he said, his voice calm but firm. There was no hesitation in his eyes, only a quiet strength that made Clara realize she could for once follow someone without questioning it. The two of them walked toward the hallway together. Clara noticed the floors, the walls, the patterns of the office she knew so well. All seemed different in the dim light. Shadows stretched across the ceiling, and the silence made every small noise louder. Then they saw it, a stack of papers scattered across the floor. A window slightly open, the glass shattered at its base. It seemed like a simple accident, but the fear it stirred was real. Clara felt her hands tremble. I didn't hear anyone, she whispered, more to herself than to Ryan. He shook his head. Sometimes it's not about hearing. It's about noticing. Someone or something could be here. We need to be careful. Clara nodded, though her throat felt tight. She realized she had underestimated the feeling of being alone. Every decision, every victory had always been hers to manage. But tonight she was reminded that even the strongest leaders could feel vulnerable. Ryan looked at her, his expression softening. You don't have to face it alone. Not tonight. Clara wanted to speak, to push back, to say that she didn't need anyone. But she found herself silent, her body relaxing slightly in his presence. There was no pressure, no demand, only a quiet offer of help. The sound of another noise made them both turn. This time it was quieter, closer. Clara's heart raced. She could feel the walls closing in, the empty office no longer comforting. Ryan stayed calm, scanning the surroundings, and she felt a strange sense of trust in him she could not explain. Are you always this calm? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ryan smiled faintly. Not always, but I've learned that panic doesn't solve anything. You handle it step by step. That's all you can do. Clara nodded slowly, absorbing the simplicity of his words. In her life, everything had been complicated. Business decisions, people's expectations, her own drive. But here, in this moment, it felt like the world had slowed down just enough for her to see a different way. Suddenly, a noise came from the elevator shaft. A metallic clang followed by the sound of something falling. Clara jumped back, gripping the edge of a desk. Ryan immediately moved closer, his hand brushing hers briefly as he steadied her. She felt a strange warmth at the touch, a reassurance she didn't expect. Stay behind me, he repeated softly. I've got you. Clara nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She realized how heavy it felt to admit that she needed help, even for a moment. She had spent her life proving that she could handle everything. But here, in the shadows of her own building, she felt the truth. She was human, and humans needed support. They moved slowly toward the elevator. The doors were closed, the control panel flickering. Clara's eyes widened as she noticed the floor indicator moving on its own. Something was not right. Her instincts screamed caution, but Ryan's calm presence kept her grounded. Someone could be stuck, Ryan said, or maybe it's just a glitch. Either way, we need to check it. Clara hesitated. I don't know if I should. You're not alone, Ryan said simply. I'm here. We'll figure it out together. With a deep breath, Clara nodded and followed him. They reached the elevator and Ryan pressed the emergency call button. A small speaker crackled, but no voice responded. Clara's heart beat faster, but she focused on Ryan's steady gaze. He gave her a small nod, and she felt a surge of courage she hadn't expected. Let's open it, he said, pulling a small tool from his bag. Clara watched, fascinated by the calm efficiency with which he worked. The door slid open slowly, revealing an empty elevator. A loose cable hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly. The sound of the city outside was muffled, distant, as if the world itself had paused. Clara exhaled, relief washing over her. She felt herself relax, though her mind still raced with questions. Who was this man? And why did she feel such trust in him so quickly? She wanted to ask, but the words didn't come. Ryan stepped back, giving her space. See? Not so bad. Clara smiled faintly, feeling a connection she had not expected. For weeks she had felt isolated, burdened by responsibilities and expectations, but in the presence of someone who simply offered support, she felt a weight lift, a small part of her fear melt away. Thank you, she whispered. Ryan nodded, his expression kind but unreadable. You don't have to thank me. Sometimes people just need someone to stand with them. Clara felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of relief she hadn't realized she needed. The office no longer felt threatening. The shadows still stretched across the walls, but they seemed less heavy. She realized something important. Strength wasn't always about handling everything alone. Sometimes it was about letting someone in, even just a little. The night stretched on, but Clara felt a small sense of peace. She and Ryan moved through the office, checking each area, making sure everything was safe. Each step reinforced a quiet understanding between them. It was simple, unspoken, but powerful. By the time they returned to her office, Clara felt lighter, her mind clearer. She realized that tonight had shown her something she had long ignored. Leadership and strength did not always mean solitude. Sometimes it meant accepting help. Even from a stranger, Ryan looked at her one last time before leaving. You're stronger than you think. But remember, no one has to face everything alone. Clara watched him go, feeling a strange mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She didn't know his full story, and perhaps she never would. But she knew that tonight, she had learned something essential about herself, about trust, and about the quiet power of a helping hand. She sat back in her chair, looking out at the city lights below. The building that had felt so massive and intimidating now seemed smaller, more manageable, and in the quiet of the night she whispered to herself, "I am not alone." For the first time in weeks, Clara felt hope. The next morning, the sun rose slowly, spilling golden light across the city. Clara sat at her large desk, her coffee untouched, staring at the documents in front of her. The events of last night still lingered in her mind, and she found herself replaying the moments with Ryan over and over. His calmness, his quiet strength, the way he had guided her through fear. It was unlike anything she had experienced before. Clara shook her head and tried to focus. There were meetings to attend, decisions to make, and emails piling up faster than she could handle. But no matter how hard she tried, her thoughts kept drifting back to the man who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, offering help when she had felt most vulnerable. Her assistant, Nina, walked in quietly, noticing the faraway look in Clara's eyes. "Good morning, Clara. You're early today." Clara managed a small smile. "Morning, Nina. Yes, I couldn't sleep well, so I decided to start early." Nina raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" Clara hesitated, unsure how to explain the strange feeling that had stayed with her since last night. Yes, just a long night." "Everything is fine." Nina nodded but didn't press further. She knew when to push and when to leave Clara alone. "I'll be in the conference room. Let me know when you're ready for the first meeting." Clara nodded and returned her attention to the papers before her. But the more she tried to focus, the more restless she felt. Last night had shown her a side of herself she rarely acknowledged. She was strong, capable, and independent, but she also had limits, and sometimes those limits could be dangerous if ignored. Meanwhile, across town, Ryan was already at work. He had a small delivery business, mostly local, and his days were long. Balancing work and raising his young daughter, Emma, was a constant challenge. But Ryan had grown used to the rhythm. He enjoyed his work, the small victories, and the smiles from customers who appreciated his honesty and dedication. Even so, Ryan couldn't shake the memory of Clara's office. The way the lights had reflected off the glass and the fear that had gripped her. She had been so composed, so strong, yet vulnerable in a way that made him respect her even more. He found himself thinking about her during quiet moments, wondering what kind of life she led outside the office, and how someone like her managed the constant pressures of leadership. Emma ran into his small office space, her hair in a messy braid and her eyes full of excitement. "Daddy, can we go to the park after work?" Ryan smiled, crouching down to her level. "We'll see, Pumpkin. I have a busy day, but maybe we can find a little time." Emma pouted, but she trusted him. She always knew that her dad would find a way to make things work. "Okay, Daddy, but don't be late." Ryan ruffled her hair and sent her off to start her homework. He returned to his orders, but his mind kept drifting back to Clara. He couldn't explain why he had stayed with her last night, why he had felt a responsibility to protect someone he barely knew. But he knew it was the right thing to do. Back at the office, Clara's first meeting began. Board members sat around the long table discussing strategies, profits, and future expansions. Clara listened, contributed, and guided the conversation with precision. Yet underneath her confident exterior, she felt a strange tension. She couldn't stop thinking about last night, about the man who had appeared so calmly in her life, and the vulnerability she had felt during a brief break. Clara stepped out onto the balcony, letting the cool morning air wash over her. She leaned against the railing, closing her eyes for a moment, and allowed herself to breathe. The city below buzzed with life, people rushing to work, cars moving in perfect chaos, and yet she felt isolated among them. Her life was full of success, but it was also full of expectations, pressures, and the constant need to appear invincible. A small buzz from her phone pulled her out of her thoughts. A message flashed on the screen. "Meeting rescheduled. Board wants urgent update." "Be ready," Clara sighed. Another demand, another responsibility. She felt the weight of it, heavier than usual. Then another thought came to her mind, unexpected and uninvited. Ryan. She didn't know why she thought of him now, but she did. She wondered if he was having a normal day, if he had returned to his life, or if he was thinking about her as she was about him. Later that afternoon, Clara's assistant brought an unusual delivery. A small envelope neatly wrapped with no return address. Clara opened it cautiously, her hand steady despite the fluttering in her chest. Inside was a simple note. Sometimes we all need someone to stand with us. Remember last night. Our Clara froze, her heart skipping a beat. The handwriting was neat, simple, but somehow it carried a personal touch she could not ignore. She looked around her office, suddenly aware of the silence. She didn't know if it was Ryan who had sent this or someone else, but the message stirred something in her. It reminded her of the unexpected support, the calm presence that had made her feel safe. Meanwhile, Ryan's day moved forward, but he too felt a tug at his thoughts. He wondered if Clara had managed to rest after last night, if she had remembered anything beyond the fear and relief. He knew he could not intrude on her life, yet the desire to ensure she was safe stayed with him. It was a simple thought, protective, unassuming, and yet it felt important. That evening, Clara left the office earlier than usual. She walked down the quiet streets, the city lights flickering in reflection from puddles of rain from the morning drizzle. She felt the weight of the day lift slightly with each step. The streets were familiar, yet tonight, she noticed details she usually ignored. The laughter of children nearby, the smell of fresh bread from a small bakery, the way the street lamps cast long shadows that danced across the walls. As she reached the small park near her apartment, she paused to watch a father and child playing on the swings. The scene was simple, ordinary, but something in it struck her deeply. The connection, the care, the small gestures of guidance and protection, it reminded her of Ryan, of how he had stayed with her last night without expecting anything in return. She reached her apartment, still carrying the quiet echo of that memory. Inside, the walls were her sanctuary, but also her cage. She realized she had spent much of her life alone, building walls to protect herself, to ensure that no one could exploit weakness. Yet tonight, she saw the value of letting someone in, of allowing even a moment of trust. Ryan, meanwhile, closed his small office for the day and walked home with Emma. They talked about the simple things, a funny story at school, the way a bird had landed on the windowsill, the plans for the weekend. Yet beneath the casual conversation, Ryan's mind kept circling back to Clara. He couldn't explain why, but he felt connected to her, as if last night had created a bond that neither of them could ignore that evening. Ryan made dinner for Emma while she set the table. They laughed together, enjoying the small, ordinary moments that made life meaningful. Ryan realized that his life, though busy and sometimes difficult, had its own richness. And in a quiet corner of his mind, he hoped that Clara had found a small piece of that calm, that support, that he had tried to offer her. The next morning, Clara found herself thinking about Ryan again. She wondered if he was aware of the impact he had on her, if he knew that his calm presence had helped her face fear in a way she had never expected. She realized that she wanted to see him again, to understand more about the man who had stepped forward when she felt most alone. At work, she found excuses to check the lobby, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. She felt foolish at first, but the thought would not leave her. The memory of his quiet strength, his reassuring voice, the way he had moved with purpose and care. It lingered, subtle but persistent. Meanwhile, Ryan was unaware that Clara was thinking of him. He continued his days, balancing work, parenting, and small responsibilities, unaware that someone in a tall office building was quietly holding a space in her thoughts for him. Then, an unexpected opportunity appeared. A small charity event was announced, organized to support local families in need. Clara's company was invited to participate, and she knew she would have to attend. As she reviewed the details, a spark of curiosity lit in her mind. She wondered if Ryan might be there. It seemed unlikely, yet the thought brought a small excitement. A hope she could not explain. Ryan, on the other hand, received a flyer about the same event while delivering a package. He read through it quickly, noticing that it was a community gathering. He paused, thinking about Clara's company and how she might be involved. He didn't know why, but the thought made him consider attending, even if only briefly. The days passed, each one building a subtle anticipation. Clara found herself looking forward to the event, a small break from the routines and pressures of her life. Ryan considered attending, imagining a chance to reconnect, or at least see her again in a safe public space. The charity event buzzed with life, laughter, and music. Colorful banners hung between trees, and the smell of fresh food from small stalls filled the air. Families, children, and volunteers moved through the space, all carrying a quiet energy of hope and community. Clara stepped into the park, her heels clicking softly on the paved path. She carried herself with the usual grace and confidence, but beneath it, a nervous excitement stirred. She had been thinking about this moment for days, the possibility of seeing Ryan again, of finding the calm presence she had felt in his company. She walked slowly, scanning the crowd. People greeted her politely, some even whispering her name with admiration. Clara smiled politely, nodding, but her attention was elsewhere. She felt a pull toward the center of the event, where children played games and volunteers organized food donations. It was a simple scene, yet it carried a warmth that made her chest tighten in an unfamiliar way. Ryan, holding Emma's hand, moved through the crowd carefully. Emma's laughter rang out as she spotted a small group of children playing ring toss. Ryan let her go briefly, watching her join the game, her small voice calling out with excitement. He felt a quiet satisfaction in these ordinary moments, the small joys that often went unnoticed. He scanned the crowd, expecting nothing, yet hoping for something he couldn't name. Then, without realizing it, their paths converged. Clara stopped near the refreshment table, pouring herself a cup of water, and looked up at the crowd. Her eyes met Ryan's for the first time since that night in her office. There was a brief, almost imperceptible pause as recognition passed between them. Neither moved immediately, both caught in the quiet electricity of surprise and anticipation. Ryan smiled gently, stepping forward. "Clara," he said simply, his voice carrying the same calm warmth she remembered. Clara's lips curved into a small, surprised smile. "Ryan," she replied, her voice steady but softer than usual. She realized how much she had been anticipating this moment without fully admitting it to herself. Emma ran toward Clara suddenly, her excitement uncontained. "Mommy, can you help me with this?" she said, holding a small craft she had made at a nearby booth. Clara's gaze softened as she looked at the girl, realizing that Ryan's life had its own little joys, the small, ordinary moments she had often overlooked in her own busy world. Ryan knelt down, picking up the craft and examining it with Emma. "This is really nice. Emma, you did a great job." Clara laughed quietly, the sound warm and easy. "She's proud of it, isn't she?" "She should be," Ryan said, smiling at his daughter. His eyes flicked toward Clara, and he felt a sense of calm he hadn't expected. It was comforting to see her here, in this simpler, more human side of life, away from the high towers and responsibilities that usually surrounded her. The event continued around them, children playing, families enjoying the activities, volunteers coordinating quietly. Clara and Ryan found themselves talking, starting with small words about the event, then moving to more personal stories. Clara shared a little about her work, the challenges and pressures she faced, and Ryan listened intently, nodding, offering gentle encouragement without judgment. Ryan spoke about Emma, his work, and the small victories that made his days worthwhile. Clara noticed the quiet pride in his voice, the care he took in every detail. She realized that strength came in many forms, not just in the ability to lead a company, but in the dedication to family, in the patience and persistence of everyday life. The conversation flowed naturally, as if they had known each other longer than a single night. Clara felt a relief she hadn't expected, the kind that comes when someone understands without needing explanations, when words are simple but meaning is deep. Ryan had offered her that comfort once before, and now in this busy yet warm environment, it returned, grounding her in a way she had forgotten she needed. Emma tugged at Ryan's hand, leading him toward a small stage where a local band played soft music. She wanted to dance, and Ryan couldn't refuse. Clara watched quietly, smiling at the sight. There was something joyful in the simplicity of the scene, something grounding that reminded her life was more than meetings, profits, and responsibilities. As the music played, Clara felt an unexpected sense of connection. She realized that the world she had built for herself, fast-paced, controlled, and demanding, could coexist with moments like this, moments of calm, joy, and connection. She was reminded of last night, of the fear that had held her and the quiet strength Ryan had shown, and she felt gratitude, not only for his presence but for the clarity it brought. Ryan noticed Clara watching him and Emma, and he offered a small acknowledging smile. She returned it, and for a moment the noise and movement of the event seemed to fade away, leaving only the quiet understanding between them. It was a connection unspoken yet undeniable, a thread that linked their experiences and reminded them both of the importance of human presence and care. After the music ended, the crowd began to disperse slowly. Volunteers cleaned up, children were called back to their parents, and the energy shifted from excitement to calm. Clara realized that she and Ryan had moved through the event almost unnoticed, yet the moments shared felt significant. She felt a quiet courage building within her, the willingness to trust, to accept support, and perhaps even to let someone become part of her life in a meaningful way. Ryan noticed Clara walking beside him, their conversation drifting naturally from work to family, from past experiences to hopes for the future. He felt a sense of ease that he hadn't known he needed. The connection between them was subtle but real, a gentle reminder that life's challenges could be softened by the presence of someone who cared. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Clara and Ryan found a quiet bench near a small fountain. They sat, letting the evening calm wash over them, the sounds of the city distant and muted. Clara realized that for the first time in a long while she felt truly seen, not as a CEO or a leader, but as a person, vulnerable, strong, and capable of connection. Ryan looked at her, his expression gentle. "You handled last night well," he said simply, recalling the fear and uncertainty of the office. "Most people wouldn't have been able to stay as calm as you did." Clara shook her head slightly, a smile touching her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you. You reminded me that it's okay to let someone help." He nodded, understanding the deeper meaning behind her words. "We all need help sometimes. It doesn't make us weak." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, their laughter mingling with the gentle sounds of the fountain. Clara noticed how easy it was to speak with Ryan, how natural the connection felt, as if the world had allowed a rare moment of simplicity and honesty in the midst of life's complexities. Emma ran up to them, holding a small bouquet of flowers she had picked from the nearby garden. "These are for you, Mommy," she said, her eyes shining with excitement and pride. Clara took the flowers, touched by the gesture. She looked at Ryan, realizing that his presence had brought this small moment of joy into their lives. "Thank you, Emma, these are beautiful." Ryan smiled, pride evident in his eyes. She picked them herself. "That's why they're special." The evening deepened and the park began to empty. Clara and Ryan remained on the bench, talking quietly about hopes, dreams, and the small moments that often went unnoticed in life. Clara felt a rare sense of peace, a realization that strength and vulnerability could coexist, and that connection could be found even in unexpected places. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Clara felt a quiet courage stirring within her. She realized that the events of the last few days, the fear, the calm presence, the small moments of connection, had changed something inside her. She was no longer just a CEO managing a company. She was a person capable of trust, of accepting support, and of finding joy in unexpected places. Ryan watched her, noticing the subtle shift in her demeanor. He felt a sense of responsibility, not as a savior, but as someone who had offered a presence of calm and support. He realized that moments like these, simple yet profound, were what made life meaningful. It was not the grand achievements alone, but the connections, the shared experiences, and the quiet understanding that truly mattered. Finally, as the night grew cooler, Clara and Ryan stood, preparing to leave the park. Emma held Ryan's hand, yawning from the long day. Clara smiled at the little girl, feeling a warmth in her chest she could not fully explain. It was a sense of belonging, of shared humanity, and of the unexpected ways life could bring people together. Clara turned to Ryan, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you for being here today. It meant more than I can say." Ryan smiled, a quiet acknowledgement in his eyes. "I'm glad I was, and I'm glad you were willing to let someone be there for you." They walked toward the exit together, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement. The connection between them was simple, yet powerful. It was not about words or actions alone, but about presence, understanding, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing someone cares. The next morning, Clara woke early, sunlight spilling through the curtains, casting warm patterns on the floor. She sat on the edge of her bed, reflecting on the previous night. The charity event had left her mind buzzing, not with stress or deadlines, but with something lighter: hope, curiosity, and a strange sense of anticipation. She replayed moments of laughter with Ryan and Emma, the quiet conversations and the warmth that had entered her life without warning. For weeks, Clara had been consumed by work, strategy, and perfection. She had built walls around herself, walls that kept people at a distance, walls that protected her from disappointment or distraction. Yet now she realized that these walls, though strong, had also kept out moments of connection, small joys, and the quiet presence of someone who understood her without judgment across town. Ryan prepared breakfast for Emma, humming a soft tune. Her laughter filled the small apartment as she helped him stir pancake batter. It was ordinary, simple, and perfect. He watched her carefully, noticing how small details, like the way she wiped flour from her hands or laughed at a mistake, made life meaningful. Yet even in these quiet moments, his thoughts drifted to Clara. He didn't know why he thought about her so often, or why the memory of her presence stirred a mixture of calm and excitement. It was unexpected, yet not unwelcome. Clara arrived at the office later than usual but felt energized. She carried with her a small notebook, intending to jot down ideas and plans. But her mind kept drifting, replaying conversations with Ryan. She noticed how easy it had been to speak with him, how natural the connection felt, and how rare such moments were in her high-pressure world. She realized that trust and vulnerability, though uncomfortable at first, could bring a depth of clarity and courage she had rarely experienced. Her first meeting of the day brought reports, numbers, and forecasts. Clara listened, nodded, and contributed, but her mind was partially elsewhere. The memory of Ryan's calm demeanor and the genuine care he had shown made her smile subtly, unnoticed by the board members. She realized that strength was not just about control or precision, but also about understanding, accepting help, and recognizing value in others. Meanwhile, Ryan loaded a small truck with deliveries, balancing packages carefully, making sure Emma's school schedule was accounted for. He worked efficiently, yet his thoughts kept returning to Clara. He wondered if she had returned to her office safely after the charity event, if she had slept well, or if she felt the same curiosity and anticipation that he had experienced. He didn't know her life, yet he felt connected through the brief, meaningful moments they had shared later in the day. Clara's assistant brought her a small envelope. It had no return address. Inside, she found a simple note. Even strong people deserve support. Remember last night? Clara's heart skipped a beat. She recognized the handwriting. She smiled, a small warmth spreading through her chest. The note reminded her that someone had noticed her vulnerability, had stayed without expecting anything in return, and had offered calm and understanding. She felt a surge of gratitude and with it a quiet courage. Perhaps she didn't need to face everything alone that evening. Clara decided to take a walk, letting the cool air of the city calm her mind. The streets were busy with people heading home, children playing near the sidewalks, and shopkeepers closing for the day. She walked slowly, thinking about Ryan, Emma, and the unusual bond forming between them. She realized that life was not only about accomplishments and responsibility, but also about moments of presence, trust, and shared understanding. Ryan was walking with Emma to the small park near their apartment. She carried a small kite she had made, excited to fly it. Ryan helped her untangle the string, showing patience and care. The evening breeze was gentle, and he felt a quiet satisfaction in these simple moments. Yet in his mind he imagined Clara somewhere in the city, perhaps taking a walk as well, unaware that they were both seeking the same calm in different corners of their world. The next day, Clara received a call from a local community center. They needed assistance in organizing a small workshop for families. Clara agreed to help, feeling that it could be another chance to connect with people in a way she rarely allowed herself. She did not know if Ryan would be there, but the idea of shared presence, of working together on something meaningful, appealed to her. Ryan received a similar message about volunteering, unaware that it was linked to Clara's project. He considered participating, realizing that it could be a good opportunity to bring Emma and himself into a positive community activity. He did not expect to see Clara again, yet the thought excited him, and he prepared to attend on the day of the workshop. The community center buzzed with energy. Children ran around, parents organized activities, and volunteers moved efficiently through the space. Clara arrived early, setting up materials, arranging chairs, and speaking briefly with volunteers. She noticed small details, the way children's faces lit up with simple tasks, the teamwork of volunteers, and the quiet satisfaction of helping others. She felt at ease, Appreciating the ordinary beauty of the moment, Ryan arrived with Emma, who ran ahead excitedly, eager to participate. He carried supplies, helping in a quiet, steady manner. His presence was calm, grounded, and unnoticed by most, yet it brought a subtle order to the chaos. He moved naturally among the children and parents, offering assistance where needed, his attention always present. Then across the room, Clara noticed him. Their eyes met, and a quiet recognition passed between them. She felt her heartbeat quicken, a mixture of surprise and anticipation. He smiled faintly, acknowledging her presence without any pressure, and she returned the smile, a warmth spreading through her chest as the workshop began. Clara and Ryan found themselves working side by side, organizing activities for the children. They shared small jokes, laughter, and gentle encouragement. Clara noticed how natural it felt to collaborate with him, how easy the conversation flowed, and how much calmer she felt with his presence nearby. It was a rare and meaningful experience for her, one she had not expected in her structured, high-pressure life. Emma ran up to Clara holding a small craft she had made. "Look, Mommy," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. Clara knelt down, genuinely impressed. "This is wonderful, Emma. You did such a great job." Ryan watched the interaction, feeling a quiet pride in both Emma and Clara. He noticed the genuine connection forming between them, and it stirred something deep within him. It was not just admiration, but a sense of shared understanding, respect, and the quiet promise of trust. The workshop continued, each activity bringing small moments of joy, laughter, and accomplishment. Clara and Ryan moved through the space together, helping children, organizing materials, and guiding parents. They communicated through small gestures, a nod, a smile, or a quiet word, building a rhythm of cooperation that felt effortless. As the day progressed, Clara realized something important. She had always believed that her life had to be controlled, managed, and precise. Yet here, in this ordinary space, she discovered that strength could coexist with vulnerability, that leadership did not always require solitude, and that trust could be given and received without fear. Ryan felt the same. He had always known the challenges of responsibility, of raising a child alone, of balancing work and personal life. Yet he discovered that connection, understanding, and quiet support could bring a richness to life that went beyond routines and obligations. The moments shared with Clara, though simple, carried weight, shaping his perspective on trust, care, and shared human experience. By the time the workshop ended, the space was quieting down. Children waved goodbye, parents thanked the volunteers, and the volunteers packed away the materials. Clara and Ryan stood together, surveying the room, feeling the calm satisfaction of a day spent meaningfully. It was not about recognition or reward, but about the small differences they had made in lives and the quiet bond that had grown between them. Emma tugged at Ryan's hand, holding up the kite. "Daddy, can we fly it before we go?" Ryan smiled, nodding. "Of course, Pumpkin. Let's find a good spot." Clara watched as Ryan helped Emma run across a small field, the kite soaring high above. She felt a warmth in her chest, a quiet joy in witnessing the simple, ordinary scene. It reminded her that life's strength was not only in accomplishments, but in the shared moments, trust, and quiet connections that shaped human experience. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Clara and Ryan stood together, reflecting on the day. Their eyes met, and a quiet understanding passed between them. It was unspoken, yet undeniable. They had both been changed, subtly but deeply, by the experiences shared, the trust given, and the moments of connection. Finally, Clara spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you for being here today. It made a difference." The following week, Clara arrived at the office with a renewed sense of calm. Her mind was clearer, her thoughts lighter, and the events of the charity workshop had left a lasting impression. She realized that life was not just about deadlines, meetings, and numbers. It was also about connection, trust, and moments of shared understanding. The calm strength she had experienced with Ryan lingered in her thoughts, quietly shaping her decisions and outlook. Her day started as usual, with emails, reports, and meetings. But today, Clara approached her responsibilities differently. She listened more, spoke with more patience, and allowed herself small pauses to breathe and reflect. Even her assistants noticed a subtle change. The way she moved through the day with purpose, but without the constant tension she usually carried. Meanwhile, Ryan began his day with Emma, preparing breakfast and getting her ready for school. The small apartment was alive with chatter and laughter, ordinary yet full of meaning. He reflected on the previous days, the moments with Clara, and the quiet bond forming between them. Though their connection was new, he felt it growing steadily, like a gentle current moving beneath the surface, shaping thoughts, feelings, and small actions. At lunchtime, Clara received a message from Ryan. It was simple, polite, and casual. "Hope your day is going well. Would you like to meet for coffee later?" Clara's heart skipped a beat. She read the message again, appreciating the simplicity and warmth in his words. Without overthinking, she replied, "Yes, I'd like that. How about 4 p.m.? Ryan responded quickly, "Perfect. See you then." The day passed slowly, Clara counting the hours until their meeting. She felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her thoughts drifted back to last night's memories, the moments at the workshop, and the quiet strength Ryan had shown. She realized that life could hold small joys even amidst responsibilities and challenges. At 4 o'clock, Clara arrived at the small cafe where they had agreed to meet. The place was warm, with soft lighting, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air. Ryan was already there, seated at a corner table, Emma playing quietly with a small puzzle he had brought along. He looked up as she entered, offering a gentle smile that made Clara feel immediately at ease. "Hi," she said softly, sliding into the seat opposite him. "Hi," Ryan replied. "I saved you some coffee." Clara smiled, grateful for the simple gesture. "Thank you. That's thoughtful of you." They began talking, starting with ordinary conversation about work, Emma, and the city. Yet beneath the casual words there was a depth, a quiet acknowledgement of trust, understanding, and shared experiences. Clara noticed how easy it was to be herself around Ryan, how naturally the conversation flowed, and how safe she felt in his presence. Emma played quietly at the table, occasionally glancing up at them with curiosity. Ryan's eyes followed her lovingly, and Clara felt warmth in seeing the care he took in balancing fatherhood and work. It was clear to her that his strength was not just in his actions, but in his heart, in the way he gave attention, care, and support without expectation. As the conversation continued, Clara spoke about the challenges she faced in her life, the pressures of leadership, and the loneliness that often accompanied success. Ryan listened attentively, nodding, offering gentle words of encouragement without judgment. He shared small stories from his own life, the struggles and small victories of raising Emma, balancing work, and finding moments of calm amidst chaos. The hours passed quickly, unnoticed. They shared laughter, insights, and quiet reflections. Clara realized that the connection between them was deeper than mere friendship. It was rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and the quiet courage to be vulnerable in a world that often demanded strength without pause. After their coffee, Ryan suggested a walk with Emma to the nearby park. The sky was clear, painted with shades of orange and pink as the sun began to set. Clara followed, enjoying the ordinary beauty of the evening, the simple pleasures of nature and the small, meaningful moments with Ryan and Emma in the park. Emma ran ahead to the swings, calling for Ryan to push her. He laughed, helping her into place, and Clara watched quietly, appreciating the simplicity and joy in the scene. She felt a warmth in her chest, a quiet realization that life's strength was not only in accomplishments, but also in connections, presence, and the shared moments that brought meaning. Ryan glanced at Clara, noticing the subtle smile on her face. "You look peaceful," he said gently. Clara laughed softly. "I feel peaceful. These last few days, they've made me see things differently. Life isn't only about control or work. It's about moments like this." Ryan nodded, understanding her words deeply. "I know what you mean. It's the little things, the small connections that make life meaningful. That's what I've been realizing too." They walked together quietly, the city around them alive with evening sounds. Clara noticed the gentle rhythm of their steps, the unspoken understanding growing between them, and the subtle courage to trust and share without fear. She realized that she wanted this connection to continue, to grow, and to become a part of her life in a meaningful way. Ryan led Emma to a small field, helping her fly the kite. She ran laughing as the kite soared high into the sky. Clara watched, feeling a quiet happiness in the simple scene. It reminded her that life's joys were often ordinary but deeply fulfilling. She turned to Ryan, appreciating the way he had brought balance, calm, and presence into her world. "Thank you for being here," Clara said softly, her voice carrying sincerity. "Not just last night or at the workshop, but now, today." "It means a lot," Ryan smiled, a quiet understanding in his eyes. "I'm glad. And I think we both needed this. Moments to remember what really matters." The evening deepened, stars beginning to twinkle in the clear sky. Clara realized that life's challenges were still present, but now they felt lighter, manageable. The connection with Ryan had shown her that strength and vulnerability could coexist, that trust could be given and received, and that shared moments could bring courage and joy. Ryan walked beside her, Emma skipping ahead, holding the kite string tightly. He felt a deep satisfaction, not only in the small joys of the evening, but in the quiet bond forming with Clara. It was not about grand gestures or dramatic moments, but about presence, understanding, and the gentle power of support and trust. As they reached the edge of the park, Clara paused, looking at the city lights. She felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She realized that she no longer had to face life alone, that she could allow support, connection, and shared experiences to be part of her journey. She felt gratitude for Ryan, for Emma, and for the unexpected ways life had brought them together. Ryan noticed her pause, understanding without words. "Whatever comes next," he said quietly, "we don't have to face it alone." Clara smiled, a genuine warmth in her eyes. "I know, and I want to move forward with that in mind. I want to let trust and connection guide me, not just responsibility and control." They continued walking side by side, the city around them alive with quiet energy. Emma ran ahead again, her laughter echoing in the evening air, a reminder of life's small, beautiful moments. Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose, courage, and openness. She realized that the events of the past week, the fear, the calm presence, the shared experiences, had changed her. She was ready to embrace life fully with trust, connection, and the quiet strength that comes from understanding and support. As they reached Ryan's apartment, Clara turned to him, her voice soft but certain. "Thank you for being part of this. I don't want this connection to end." Ryan smiled, his eyes warm. "It won't end. We'll keep moving forward together, one step at a time."